So what you said in a moment ago in your previous answer about the feeling in Israel was they either could have gone the whole hog, if not certainly they could have gone on for a few more days, inflicted more damage. That's a feeling that many here in India shared as well in the context of the India-Pakistan conflict that happened back in May. It went on for about 4 days. And there again, the feeling was it was Trump who stopped India in its tracks. It was Trump who came in and said, oh, I've mediated and I've declared a ceasefire. Of course, the government of India has rejected that, saying it was bilaterally negotiated and arrived at. But do you see merit in that sentiment, whether it's in Israel or in India, that they could have gone whole hog against a regime, against a state which has used terror proxies for a number of decades?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the points you make are very valid, and I think the read across to Indo-Pakistan and even to Ukraine, Russia is there. Trump's basic approach is ceasefire. I mean, because that's the quickest way to stop any fighting, and and the quickest way to claim a sort of diplomatic victory. Unfortunately, ceasefires are not a way of dealing with root causes, of actually addressing the issues that divide countries. Now, whether continued military action would have achieved that is also open to doubt. I mean, there were other things Israel could have done, but I think one of the difficulties Israel has is it's very clever when it starts wars. It never seems to have a very good idea how to stop them, and if they could carry on attacking targets for ages, and not a lot Iran could have done about it. But the end result may just have been to strengthen popular support for the regime. So I don't think there was necessarily an alternative in Israel's case. And of course, for India, in the fight over Kashmir, there was a question of just how far it wanted to go. But you're left with this difficulty that if you just keep on having ceasefires, then all you're doing is sort of suspending conflicts. You're not actually resolving them.
So can I press on that point a bit? Because, the problem, whether it's Israel or for India, is these are democracies whose citizens, innocent civilians, have been attacked. And obviously in democracies, there is pressure on government to act, and there needs to be some form of retribution against these other, for want of a better phrase, enemy states that are using these terror proxies. In the case of Iran, it's Hezbollah and Hamas and all of the other entities in the Middle East. In the case of Pakistan, it's terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. And democracies are, by very nature, restrained in their response, yet at the same time, they have to be seen as responding, because otherwise, there's a political cost to pay. So how do democracies like India or Israel or Britain, for that matter, deal with this problem of terrorism? Because on the other side, you have a bunch of guys who are, ideologically brainwashed and who have seemingly a lot of resources, and there are states that are backing them because it suits this asymmetric warfare, suits those states.
So I think that there's two answers to that, neither satisfactory. One of them is you have to manage these crises. You have to accept that you're facing a long-term problem with groups that have backing, can cause terror, but not necessarily can go much beyond that. The UK has faced the IRA in the past, and it's faced its own Islamist terror groups in the past, and so on. So we're all familiar with that sort of challenge. And then there's the sort of root causes issue. Are there deals that could be done over Kashmir or over Palestine or whatever that would take the edge off these conflicts? And there may be, I mean, my suspicion is it's actually probably easier to do over Palestine than it is over Kashmir. But however easy it is, we're not particularly close to it at the moment. And then you're not sure. I mean, and the Israeli argument would be that all you would do with a Palestinian state is to create a base for yet more terrorism in the future. Now, these issues may be resolvable, but that's the way it goes. And I think it's just a reflection. But both of the conflicts we're talking about, go back to the end of the British Empire and the late 1940s. So we've been living with them for a very long time, and they're both appear to be zero sum. The one gains, the other loses, and that makes it much harder. So we're ending up with this sort of messy attempt to manage it. And part of the managing is to demonstrate to those causing you harm that that you can cope, that you're resilient, but also that you can really hurt them in response.
You talked about deterrence in one of the previous answers in the context of states that have nuclear weapons. So, for example, India and Pakistan both have nuclear weapons. So there's a degree of deterrence that has been established. In the case of Iran and Israel, one has, but has not publicly declared. The other is in the pursuit of, hasn't achieved that yet. And therefore, that's a little different. But how do you achieve deterrence in the case of terrorism? I mean, what is the deterrence in the case of terrorism? Because like I said, those guys are brainwashed and ready to die.
The only deterrence, well, I mean, the deterrence is often spoken of in two ways. One is punishment. If you do these horrible things, we will punish you badly, which doesn't always seem to work. And the other is denial. You may try to do these terrible things, but we're really going to stop you getting away with it, which is about better intelligence, better protection of public areas, and being prepared to act when you see a problem developing. And if you look at the attack of the 7th of October 23, it could have been prevented. The Israelis had the intelligence; they weren't acting upon it. Now, I don't know enough about the situation in Kashmir, so. I don't think there's. I'm afraid that the unsatisfactory answer is there's no obvious solution, but you can make it harder. And we've seen in the past groups, in a sense, peter out because they can't recruit. They don't get. They've got to sustain themselves, and if they can't show successful activity, then people don't join them, and so on. But it's a long haul. There's no simple answer to it.
So, is there any lessons? There have been terror groups that have been defeated in the last 20 years. I mean, Al Qaeda is an example of it. IS, the Islamic State, in its various forms, some of it has been defeated quite successfully. Are there lessons that can be learned from those examples, whether it's Israel in the context of Hamas, Hezbollah, etc., or even India in the context of these terror groups?
I mean, I think that the thing about Hamas and Hezbollah, and of course ISIS as well, was that they ended up moving from sort of terrorist militias into almost into fully fledged armies, and that made it much easier to hit them. I mean, if you're just talking about a few individuals who move amongst the shadows and come out and do their deeds, it's actually much harder to wipe them out completely. If they act as if they're fully fledged armies representing a state, then it's easier actually to use regular force against them, which is why in the end Hamas, Hezbollah and ISIS in practice have all been defeated as regular forces. But the ideology and the incentives for individuals to carry on the fight, as it were, remain. So again, it's almost easier the more they come out into the open and present themselves as a regular force, organized in battalions and so on.